So today we're going to go over how you know you have dead subscribers and how one of the worst things you can do is just rely simply on your ESP to tell you who you have that's the most engaged subscribers and not do what I call the dummy scrub, which usually results in you deleting potentially good subscribers and keeping bad ones. So first things first, let's start with what I call the dummy scrub. This has been common practice in email marketing for years. Now, it used to work well back in the day when open rates were a little bit more effective as a metric to track. Nowadays, it's not so much, which I'll get into a moment. But effectively, what the dummy scrub is, people simply check their opens. So who's opened in the last 30 days? Who's opened in the last 60 days? Who's opened in the last 90 days? And common wisdom would tell you if somebody hasn't opened in the last 90 days to delete them because you could potentially be damaging your email sender score or your domain reputation, which are all very important things. But contrary to popular belief, it's not necessarily the open rate that affects the actual email deliverability of your emails and everything. It's the amount of time somebody actually spends in the email, right? So an open,
one could say.
So an open that tracks, it could be literally somebody just opening your email to delete it on their phone because sometimes that's faster, right? That will not improve deliverability, but it will look good on your metrics, right? So this is why I always have two test Gmail accounts, a Outlook account and a Yahoo account that always test my emails. I have all four subscribed to any email list I'm either operating or running for a client. And what you'll find is the ones that you do not interact with will, especially if it's Gmail, will end up in promo tab. But if you take the time to actually open the emails and actually sit there on the email for a while, click links and stuff like that, it's more likely to enter the primary inbox, right? That's why people worrying or somebody replying, hey, I found this in my promo tab, just wanted to let you know, isn't exactly concrete evidence that your deliverability is not any good, because that could just mean they're just subscribed to your email list because they're nice and they're a friend and they're somebody who typically supports you, but they don't actually take the time to read all your emails. So their activity shows Google that, yeah, this person engages and they open and they click on occasion, but they, out of 100% of the emails or out of like 90% of the emails, they don't actually take the time to read it. So that's why Gmail is always kind of in flux, right? Now, Yahoo is a little bit of a different beast. I won't get into that too much. Outlook is a disaster. There's actually once upon a time where if anybody joined my list from Yahoo, I would just delete them on site. Or even if they had an MSM account of any sort. Pardon me?
Oh, I think you said Yahoo. You mean if anyone joined from Outlook?
Yeah, Outlook too.
Yeah.
I used to just, unless they had a Gmail account or their own personal domain, I kicked them off my list. Because what you'll find is, like in Yahoo, you have two inboxes. You have your primary and your spam, right? So you could be hitting the primary some of the time or hitting their spam folder, but the spam is not necessarily spam content. It's just entering their spam folder. So if by chance you've been entering their spam folder for most of the time and you just randomly hit their primary tab because your email deliverability just got a decent boost, they may, without cause, hit the spam button or mark your email as spam because that's where it normally lands, even though they could be opening and all that. Now, recently in the last year, Yahoo's gotten better. They've got different tabs and stuff like that. So it's not so much of an issue. But what a lot of people don't know is Yahoo also owns AOL, which still operates in the old way. So AOL subscribers are typically the people who you will get marked as spam most of the time and you won't even know. I won't get into it too much, but there's a special code that you could enter into your DNS settings in your domain and even your ESP. So you can actually report and actually see who's hitting the spam button. You can't do that with Google. Google likes to hide everything. But the most sinister ISP is Outlook, MSM. They're really bad for your emails, not even entering people's inboxes. They won't even be able to find it in junk, but it will mark you as an open, right? Because even if it's bounced, so your email deliverability, if you're following the dummy scrub method, you will have people that aren't even getting your emails, and you're going to leave them on your list, right? There's a way to fix that and make it better. I'll get into that again in a minute. But effectively, the dummy scrub, this is why it doesn't work, right? Also, even if somebody has a Gmail account, if they have an Android phone, like I do, and their default settings are set to HTML off, and the pixel that every ESP uses for tracking is a form of HTML code. If HTML is turned off, they will not report an open, but they could be opening and reading each and every single one of your emails. However, on the contrary, if somebody's got an Apple phone, because I forget which update it was, I think it was back in 2021 or 2022. But what it does is it wants to hide opens by basically tracking an open for every email landed that's viewed. So if somebody's got an Apple phone, and even if they use a Gmail account, if they open up Gmail and they see your email in their primary, that counts as an open. So that doesn't even mean that they opened it, clicked on it, nothing. They could be what's called gray mail, which is like they see the email and they delete it, or they just leave it there and it builds up. That tanks your email deliverability too, right? So if you're to follow the dummy scrub method, what you're going to be doing is potentially having people that are opening your emails getting deleted because they're not tracking an open, or have people that are tracking an open, but they're not even reading your emails, and you're keeping them on your list. So that's why the only metric I follow whatsoever is clicks, right? And you'll actually notice this, like I mentioned, with the separate Gmail accounts and how Google's always in flux, is sometimes you'll notice like a massive dip in your open rates. Like, let's say I usually email daily. So if my daily open rate on the list I've operated for almost 2 years now, it averages around 42, 43%. If randomly it's at 27%, most people would panic about that. But sometimes that's just the reporting to your ESP, whichever email software you're using. But what you should be always looking at is your clicks. What you'll find more often than not is clicks either stay the same or go up sometimes when the open rates report lower. Sometimes that's because you're using a very congruent open or subject line that results in only the people that it matters to are going to open it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. That's why your click rates will rise, and that's what's happening there. Is you're actually using a subject line that's more resonant to the people that are more likely to click. But more often than not, it's a reporting issue. And what you'll find is your click-through rate stays the same from day to day to day, right? But the open rate's always kind of going. What that means is that's just a reporting issue. That's not necessarily something to worry about, which is why click-through rate is the only metric I really look at ever, especially if I'm going to be deleting people. So what I would do is I have 3 segments on my list. I have my 30-day engagers, my 60-day engagers, and my 90-day engagers. And I also have a separate segment too, which is my 7-day engagers, which I only use when I'm running a promotion. The only reason I do that is if I notice in all my test accounts or randomly my emails are just not landing in primary, I will then cut a segment out just to bump up your open rates. Your open rates typically need to be seen at, if it ever tanks and you're finding your emails are just not landing in primary, the ISPs need to be seeing that your opens and engagement need to be somewhere between 40 to 60% for almost 2 weeks. So what I would do is I would cut the 90-day engagers out first. And then if you're hitting over 40 and preferably closer to 50, 60%, run that for about a week or two. And what you'll find is all of a sudden your emails are landing in primary again. What you'll probably notice too is you'll start getting more replies too. Another reason to try to elicit replies is ISPs see that as normal engagement. And there is a way to manipulate that, which I'll talk about soon, which kind of fixes the problem I mentioned about how Outlook accounts sometimes mark an open, but that email never landed, right? So click-through rate is by far the most important one to do. So that's what I'll usually do is if somebody hasn't opened in 30 days, they get marked to a 60-day day engager. If they haven't opened in 60, I'll put them to the 90 and vice versa. And that's how I operate that. But when somebody hasn't opened over 90 days, what I want to look at is, have they clicked an email in the last 90 days? And more often than not, even if it's somebody who were tracking opens and clicks for a while, especially when they're new to your list, you'll still see that sometimes they are clicking, but an open's not tracking, because for whatever reason I cannot explain, and I don't know why. As your email list gets bigger, open rates become less accurate, right? You'll hear somebody, like, even if they do regular scrubbing and cleaning, they'll mention, oh yeah, when my list has like 500 subscribers, my average open rate was like somewhere around 50+%, but now I'm at 5,000 and my average open rate's at 32. You probably still have the same percentage of people open and reading, but for some reason, open rates, just because you're doing a massive blast, the reporting's just that much slower. Sometimes you'll actually see an email that you sent. Let's say you check it today and it says your open rate's at like 30%. You check it 2 weeks from now and all of a sudden it's 42. It's not because an extra 12% of people opened it in the last 2 weeks, which is also possible too. But normally it's because the reporting's just delayed, sometimes as much as 7 to 14 days. But that's usually the way I do is, so if somebody's not open, but they're clicking, they get pushed back onto the segment of which they clicked, right? So if they clicked in the last 60 days, they get put back into the 60 day segment. If they clicked within the last 30, but it open wasn't tracked, I put them back on the 30 day engagers, because they are actually engaging with your emails. It's just your ESP's not tracking it accurately, right? So, but then the bigger issue that ends up happening, which a lot of people notice, especially if you do what a lot of marketers do now, is when they run their promo, they will run a whole new segment, like a promo segment. And they're like, hey, if you don't want to be viewing any of my emails about this promo, click here to unsubscribe just from this broadcast. You'll be still subscribed to my main newsletter, which you'll be getting next week after the promo, this and that and the other, whatever. But the issue with that is you now have bots or security softwares which will open and click every email to ensure that there's no spam activity, or you're not sending a virus or something like that. So it's like malware and stuff like that, right? So what it's doing is opening and clicking preemptively as your email lands before the person even opens and clicks it or even reads it. But it's going to mark as a highly engaged subscriber, even if they're never opening. And the worst offenders for this are email domains that end in edu. Like if somebody's like works for like government or some kind of educational
oh yeah, that makes sense.
district or whatever. Yeah, right. So
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So what happens there? Like I usually just, like, I'm not gonna say I delete these people, but usually the moment they enter my list, I immediately send them a follow-up email, like a really quick 9-word email, just asking a question, like, and I'll even sometimes send it right from my domain, not necessarily even from my ESP, just to see if I'm going to get any kind of response. Because the moment somebody joins your list, that's the time that they're most likely to respond to any of your emails. So if you email them then asking a question and they don't respond, it's likely a bot or they're just not that interested. Or what can happen too, depending on the forms of traffic you use. For example, I've used refined ads in the past, which is a classified ad. You pay a flat fee for the amount of subscribers that you get. They put like your ad for like joining your list for whatever you offer to join your list up on like their website, and if people click it, they send you the email addresses so that you can add them to your list. But the problem with that is if those are bot accounts entering that website and they're clicking on it, you're getting fake clicks, and you could be adding them onto your email list and damaging, right? So the way to avoid all this is doing it's not even what I call a real scrub. It's what is a real scrub. So I use a service called Clean 13. There's several different other vendors out there. I forget most of their names just because I've been using Clean 13 for almost 2 years now, and they're the best one. And pretty much all you're going to do is you're going to upload your entire email list onto a CSV. You're going to upload it in Clean 13. You hit a button, And within 30 seconds, it's going to tell you all the bad email addresses. What it's also going to tell you is if anybody has ever hit the spam button on anybody else's email list, which is a concern, right? Because somebody who's, well, like previous activity is always going to like preemptively prove what future activity is going to be like. If somebody's hit spam button before, they're probably going to do it again because for some reason people just don't want to hit the unsubscribe button. They don't like what they read and whatever. I don't know. They're assholes. But it's also going to tell you bot accounts, undeliverables, email addresses that have been abandoned and have now become either what's called a spam trap or a honeypot, which are, believe it or not, addresses that people abandoned. And it could be on your email list because let's say I have an email address I just don't use anymore, but I subscribed to somebody's newsletter 2 years ago, but I just stopped using it. Gmail, or I mean Google, Yahoo, MSN, they're not gonna just delete that email address. They're gonna leave it there and then let it get to the point where it's gonna start bouncing emails, but leave it so that the emails get checked by them instead. And whoever is sending those emails, it's every time you send to that address, it's slowly damaging your email deliverability. And the only way to check this is by using a service like Clean13, a real scrubbing service of any sort. They're all fairly good. I just found Clean13 a little bit more accurate. And you'll find more often than not, like, especially if your email list is older, that you'll actually have a lot of bad addresses. And even the ESP I use, which is Berserker Mail, they will not allow you to move an email list from any other ESP and start sending from them until you run a proper scrub first, which they provide. It's rather cheap. I think it's like they charge like 10 cents a subscriber, or maybe it's less. Maybe it's like 1 cent a subscriber. It's very minimal, but they want to ensure that because a lot of ESPs, what they use is like a shared server, right? So like you don't usually have your own server that you're sending from. So the last thing they want you to do is take your damaged email list and just add it onto their main server, and then you're affecting everybody's deliverability. Now, what I do is I will run a real scrub, like Clean13, every 6 months. And I will run what I call the real scrub about once a month. And doing that has allowed me to stay in the primary tab most of the time on most people's email addresses. And even it depends on how fast your churn is. Naturally, the more emails you send, the more your list is going to churn, but the more engaged it's going to be because only people who are opening and reading your emails are going to stick around, not necessarily the people who are not interested, right? Now, the only thing I need to get to now is what I call, well, actually, it's a warm-up service. You and I talked about it earlier throughout the week. I use what's called warm-up inbox. There's Instantly AI. And what these services are actually more so meant for is warming up a domain, specifically if somebody's using cold email, right? Because what you want to do is what a lot of people used to do back in the day, they would buy a domain, hook it up to an ISP of some sort to send it from like either Google Workspaces, Outlook, whatever, and just start blasting hundreds of emails a day cold to like just cold prospects because they're trying to land whatever service they're trying to sell. Now, the issue with that is if you're sending to a domain that's new, it's got no reputation. So you're more likely to enter the spam, or if your emails are entering people's primary, but they're marking you as spam because that's what spam is you're sending to a list you did not acquire legally, right? And contrary to what anybody says, yes, cold email is spam. Somebody didn't sign up to get an email from you and you're sending it to them repeatedly. You're an asshole, and you are the reason why we need to play with DNS settings. Right? Like that whole Google thing that we had to deal with 2 years ago, where like DKIM needs to be stricter and all this other shit. It's because the assholes that are now using AI to send thousands of cold emails a day. You're an asshole. Thank you.
Yeah. The only, just as a side note, if you're going to, I've never really liked doing cold anything, but if you're going to do it, do it on a platform like LinkedIn or I guess Substack. And also, it should never be totally cold in the first place. There should be like you at least like and react to their note or whatever, and then you message them and hey, and you don't just message them with you don't pitch slap them. That's a term I learned on Alignable.
Yeah.
like LinkedIn, but for small business owners. I learned the term pitch slapping. You don't do that. You actually try to communicate with them. So, but that said, just a little side note: if you're going to do any cold anything, make sure it's lukewarm at least, and it's not email. It's on a platform where you're not screwing up things for everyone else, basically.
Yeah, it's the business equivalent of like aiming for a one night stand on every shot you take.
Yeah,
Might
exactly.
work.
And
Sure.
not only that, but just walking up and asking and propositioning someone immediately. So, without
Right?
even trying to like have a conversation first.
I don't know. Didn't work for me when I was younger. So, so, yeah. So the domain warmups, the reason why I hook up every email list that I operate or own to one is first things first, warm up your domain before you start sending emails from your ISP, because your domain reputation is going to start out higher. You're going to have a better sender score, and everything's just going to work better. But also, what these domain warm up tools do, specifically warm up inbox, is have your emails, because what they do is they send emails from your domain on your behalf to other people who also subscribe to the same service. Right? And they'll send anywhere from 5 to 100 emails a day, right? So like when you hook it up, it'll catch you off guard at first. If you're not used to it, you will get into your inbox and you'll see all these emails that you're receiving, but like you're also replying to, but you never did it. Right? So what it's doing is it's creating what looks like normal email behavior, right? Because now what you're doing is you're proving to the ISPs you're not just using your domain for marketing services, which then improves your domain reputation and your sender score, because now you look more like a human being, which is the behavior they want in the first place, right? That's why getting your email list subscribers to actually reply to your emails is a good thing, right? Like my email deliverability, I got it to the point where I would lose track of who to reply to, because if 10 people replied to the same email that I sent from my ESP, it would come up as an email thread as if everybody was CC'd on it, but nobody was actually CC'd on it. So I'd have to click on each individual reply to reply to it. It wouldn't come up as a separate reply, right? Which when you start hitting elite email deliverability, that's what it looks like on your inbox if people are replying to your emails. Now that's why you do that. And then also what it does as well, which corrects the whole sending emails to Microsoft email addresses and they never land, but they count it as an open, is if it by chance is bouncing, which is the case there, or it's entering people's junk folder, people's spam folder, their promotions folder. What the software will do for you automatically is when it enters somebody else's email, it will then place you in the right inbox or the right folder and mark you as important, so that stops to happen. So what you'll find is your first week, you'll have a few bounces still. You'll still have some emails hitting spam, and it comes up like a bar graph. It shows you. And what you'll find over time, because it'll slowly ramp it up, it'll start out like 25 emails a day, and then 30 a day, and then 40 a day, and then work its way up to 100 over time. By the time it gets up to 100, and it's been doing that steadily for about a month, your domain is very warmed up, and you'll pretty much correct that whole issue, which then creates a new problem. Is if you have an email list that you've been sending for a while and you start using this service, and you have people who have not been getting your emails for a while, and then you start using the service and now they're hitting those people's email addresses, you might get marked as spam, or they might just reply to you to tell you to like F off, unsubscribe me. It's happened to me before. So what I would say is start this kind of service slow, ramp up, or just what I recommend people do is just start it from the start, start using it from the start. When you warm up your domain and it's good, start sending from it and leave it, because a lot of these services are rather cheap. The one I use, Warm Up Inbox, it's like $19 a month US. That's cheap to ensure that your emails are actually landing. Like your email list should be making you money. So software costs shouldn't be a problem. And if they are, learn how to do email. Right? Like if you have
I think it's warm up warm up inbox. That one actually just to see I actually have it saved in my one tab, but I'm going to open it anyways. It has a free trial, but I don't think it's actually very expensive either. Like if you're already, I should just say, yeah, if you're already making money with email, it's like, okay, here we go. It's $19 a month on a monthly plan, or $15 a month yearly for the basic one, which, you know, is probably, I don't know like the specifics, but it's probably enough. And like, you know, you pay 180 a year, so you pay 180 once. Can you like sell, you know, a few of your product to earn that all back, especially if more of your emails are now hitting the right, you know, hitting the primary inbox, more people are going to be opening and clicking and buying. Like from a money standpoint, like if you don't have very good deliverability, it's basically like a guaranteed, as close to a guarantee on return on investment as you can get. So
yeah, like when I started using it, I went from like I had a very solid open rate for about like 43% for like months. And I started using warm up inbox, and I would say after 2 months, it went up to about 47%, which is about a 5% increase, which is not life changing, but like if you have a massive email list and you're like making thousands of dollars a month from it, like an extra 5% adds up at the end of the year.
Yeah, that could be.
And it's going to more than pay for the service, but like also it's going to prevent you another set of problems, which I've had to experience in the past, which was somebody who had a Outlook address. And this is why for a while I was just deleting people, or no, it was Hotmail, which is worse. I like if people like subscribed to my list and I saw it was Hotmail, I wouldn't even look at the email address who subscribed. I didn't care. I would just delete them. After this one event, which was somebody bought one of my courses, or it was a workshop that I was running, and I had a deadline and everything. And like in the sales letter, which was only 2,000 words, so it wasn't like a massive sales letter. Like anybody who's not illiterate should be able to read that in a timely manner, especially the way I write sales bullets and bold the important parts and even underline and highlight things in yellow that like you should be paying attention to. They bought the workshop, and in the sales letter, I always, or in my cart software, when it gets to like the actual cart, I always reiterate the important parts of the sales letter again in the cart, which is something you should always do. Don't don't overestimate the intelligence of people. The average person is dumb, does not read above a third grade reading level, which is another thing. That's why you need to write emails under a fifth grade reading level. You will literally improve your conversion rates just by lowering your sales copy one reading level. It's that bad. Anyways, and it explicitly instructed on the sales letter, hey, when you enter the cart, you're gonna, because I did a pay what you want offer as well. So it was like you could pay anywhere between $1 to like $100 or something like that, which actually works quite well. I'll probably do that again. But that said, the explicit instructions were like, enter the cart, enter the price that you want. You'll then get access to my email list, and you will get an email. Please reply to it. If you don't receive an email within the next 24 hours for whatever reason, which is not normal, again, underlined and highlighted in yellow, please reach out to me directly and it gave like all my social media platforms that I was on, so that if you did not receive an email from me after purchasing, to DM me so that I could figure out what was going on, so that you could like get access to the workshop, right? And also all the other things. Anyways, what ended up happening was the lady she got an email from my cart software, but for whatever reason, because she was using Hotmail and I wasn't using the warm-up inbox at the time, so I didn't necessarily have a great sender reputation with Microsoft and MSN accounts yet. For some reason, it didn't land. So she paid for the workshop, and she didn't even get the email to get like the link for the workshop or any of that. And then it wasn't until I think it was like a week later, when I was talking about how the workshop went, she reached out to me and she was like pretty angry, because she's like, oh my God, you ripped me off, and went off. And I'm like, yeah, I sent like 7 emails over the course of 3 days. I could see that you bought, I could see that you're getting emails, I could see that you even opened, but for some reason you missed the workshop. Like, what's going on here? And she's like, no, I didn't receive a single email, this and that, whatever, going off. And I'm like, okay, well, check your junk folder, check this, check that. And she was just, I ended up refunding her because I was like, you know what, I'm going to send you the recordings, all the templates, and pretty much the entire offer. I just gifted to her. I'm like, hey, you know what? You paid for it, so here's all the content, and I'm going to refund your money. My cart software takes about 5 to 7 business days to send it to you. So just be wary that if you don't get the money in your account right away, whatever, reach out to me if it doesn't happen. So yeah, anyways. And then from that point on, I just deleted people who had Microsoft because I was like, why deal with that? Like, why have it as an issue? So that's why I started using Warm Up Inbox. And since I started doing that, never had an issue again. Everybody was getting my emails, and sometimes you could play around with your DNS settings, like your DKIM, DMARC, SPF, and all that. But I just find having a software running in the background for you just better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's about all that I have to say about the topic. I know it's a bit of a dry, boring topic, but like, if you don't master this shit, it's going to cost you money.
Yeah.
A lot of money, right? Like, emails not landing, that's a problem. Or even, God forbid, following the dummy scrub method, like, you could be deleting the buyers off your list, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. So, yeah, man.
Yeah. So I guess since, there's a lot there, it's a more technical heavy subject. So I guess if you could summarize like the tools that you mentioned there, like the ones that you mentioned, because like I kind of want to know, but for anyone watching who watches this, they might want to know as well, like what tools you said you use, and what specifically do each of those tools do.
Okay, so the best thing you could do is, if you're not already registered to it already, is what's it called? It's the Google Workspace. It shows you your sender reputation, domain,
Is that Google Postmaster?
Google Postmaster. That's what it's called. Yeah. So Google Postmaster is something I go into at least once a week. It's something that I would say is the first thing you should check. If you notice a tank in your open rates, because it'll tell you if your sender reputation went down for any reason, domain reputation, or if you got recent spam complaints. Because even though a lot of ESPs on their metrics bar will give you like a spam percentage, it'll never read anything because Google never reports spam complaints. They just tank your email deliverability and throttle your emails from ever entering people's inboxes, but they'll never tell your ESP, so it'll never track. So that is the only way to be able to tell. And then also the other thing is, if you notice an issue with your sender reputation or deliverability, which is like, you'll notice your open rates go down, or even your click-through rates do, is Mail Genius, which is another great software. What that is it allows you to send a test email to their software. I think you're allowed 1 to 3 test emails a month. So what you would do is, it'll give you like a test email address you send from your ESP, and it'll give you an entire health report of the email you sent. So if you know specifically there was one with an issue, you could send that very email, and it'll tell you, hey, you know what, you had like 7 spam trigger words. Your DKIM is working, but you have some kind of numerical value that's off. DMARC's off, SPF is off, any of that, any of the coding stuff that needs to be done on your domain, it's going to call out and let you know any of the problems. So that would be the first thing I would check if you notice a change. Now, segmentation, that's different depending on your ESP. Some are better than others, so that's just something to figure out. That's another reason why I recommend using an ESP that uses tags, not lists. I believe Kit uses tags, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So tags is the best way to do that, because it allows you to just pick the exact segment you want to send to, and it's just much easier than having to like move lists over and change the list that you're sending to. That's a pain in the ass. I do all that manually. You can hire somebody to do it. There are softwares that can do it for you, but again, if it's just going by clicks and opens, you could effectively be deleting people that are good and keeping people that are bad. And that's another reason to also reply to any of the replies you're getting from your email subscribers is you will recognize those email addresses, and you'd be surprised the ones that are coming up as a non-open or a non-clicker, but they're the people that are actually replying to your emails, right? So that's another thing is I always keep track of who's ever replied to an email before, just so I can recognize the address if it ever comes up. I'm like, okay, well, I know this person reads because they reply once a week, right? And then warm up inbox / instantly AI. Those are like the warm up tools. Clean 13 is the software I use. It's a website. That's the one I use for like doing a massive scrub. It's not cheap. I think it's about $130 US, but you get 10,000 credits, which allows you to scrub a list up to 10,000 subscribers.
97 a month. I have the website open. They have plans from 10,000 credits up to, what is it? 2.5 million, and that's 5,277 a month. But obviously, if you have that many subscribers, you're making enough money for that. And then they have enterprise too. But they have 8 non-enterprise plans. So like at every size, you can go up to the next one.
Yeah, and it's something that like if you're not recommending, if you're not comfortable playing around with the softwares and all that, that's literally what Bradley and I do for a living. So like if you're not comfortable scrubbing your list appropriately so that you're like getting rid of the bad and only keeping the good, like that's what we do, right? And a lot of people don't do this. A lot of agencies don't even do this. They'll just do what I call the dummy scrub. And that's another reason not to hire certain agencies, because a lot of them are just glorified graphic design that pretend like they know sales copy because ChatGPT got created 3 years ago. But that's pretty much the gist of that whole scenario.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that way now people will, they can run through that segment over and over again if they need to, or if they want to, if they can grab the transcript of this or really any lives.
Oh yeah.
Throw it into ChatGPT and ask it to, hey, what are the tools I need for? I need, what's the tool stack I need for deliverability testing and deliverability, list scrubbing and all that kind of stuff. It'll pull the list out too. So having that tool stack will help keep your list nice and clean and healthy, so that as many emails as possible land in the primary. And because you're gonna have really good emails, but if they're not landing in the primary, it doesn't really matter. So just like literally fixing the technical side of things can be what somebody cause. I mean, if people are just getting your emails for the first time, you might get like some unsubscribes, some spam complaints, maybe some angry replies. But hey, angry replies are deliverability. People are interacting with their emails, so just say thank you for the deliverability, and then unsubscribe to them or let them unsubscribe or something. But
I try to piss them off more to get more replies.
more replies, better deliverability, and the people who are like, wait, I did sign up for their list and I never got emails. Now I'm glad I'm getting emails. Well, those people stick around, your metrics go up, and you'll those people will hopefully buy as well. So, and you're paying for the tool, but then you're also getting more money out of it. It's like a very, very easy return on investment kind of thing to see. And you're also not paying money for people who aren't seeing your emails. Because the other thing is, email software, you pay tiers of subscribers or per subscriber, or many different methods. But the other thing is, if you have deliverability issues, not only are they not buying from you, but like you're also paying for them, and it's not like they're opening your emails and clicking, but then not buying. You're basically paying for someone to never see your emails. So that's why that's why the dummy scrub, why that's the first thing people might resort to. But again, if they're actually like a potential buyer, if you can get them to see, I guess scrubbing them is better than nothing, but like it's still not ideal. The ideal thing is to fix it so that they are seeing your emails, then they're buying. So you're getting a return on the investment and having them on your list. And then of course you get a return on investment from the software. So if deliverability is, the thing that's holding you back, then you want to get these tools or get the ones that you would need, I suppose, and work on that. There's also and I'm an affiliate, so I guess pitching this is even though I'm not providing my link here, but there's courses
Whatever.
Chris Orzakowski is a course called Double Your Deliverability, which is a entire course that I don't know if he's still a CTO, but his CTO at the time, maybe still CTO, Matt Spangler, I think is his name. It's basically a joint course between Chris and Matt. Matt's much more on the technical side, and he shows you how to do a deliverability audit, and then how to go through and do a bunch setting up new email accounts to do sending email testing previews or actual live emails, sending to test deliverability, and a bunch of other under the hood kind of technical deliverability stuff. And it walks you through that and has some templates in there too for the deliverability audit and stuff. So there are courses out there you can pay for the software and do it yourself. You can pay for the software and buy a course to kind of walk you through it, or you can hire somebody to just do it for you, depending on what you're willing to invest, whether you're willing to trade more time or more money, basically. So either way, there's a bunch of different ways to fix this problem if you have it, and get more emails landing in the primary.
Well, that's the other thing. The other thing is the best way to fix entering the promo tab is by not being there in the first place.
Yeah.
And everything we just mentioned today is how you do that, right? Because I'm going to be starting my new email list shortly. I meant to get it done a lot sooner. Just things have been taking way longer than I thought. But the first thing I'm going to do is the domain warm up, and then everything I just mentioned here today. And then the only other thing we didn't mention, which is kind of in the same realm, but a different topic, is your welcome sequence, and the way you design it will allow you to identify the best subscribers in your email list and how to segment them, right? But yeah, definitely a topic for another time.
Yeah, we could save that for our next Inside the Inbox here, talk about using the welcome sequence as a way to kind of get that framed up, get that set up, worked out early on in the subscriber relationship, because there's a bunch of different ways. I know I've learned some from you, and I've also have my own and learned some from elsewhere for how to obviously the welcome sequence it starts the relationship, but it can also start the relationship from a deliverability standpoint. So yeah, we can talk about that next week or next time, I suppose.
Yeah, man, sounds good.
Cool. Well, I think we've covered it pretty thoroughly. So yeah.
Yeah, man. It's basically a masterclass on deliverability. We should probably keep this and sell it for $200 is what we should probably do. Because I know I've spent probably 10 times that to figure this out the hard way. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, man. All right.
All right. See ya, and see ya, everybody.
Dude.